All right, welcome back. We're going to talk today about the remote therapeutic monitoring CPT code rules and definitions, right? It can be very complicated when you're trying to understand this. And so there are four new CPT codes that are designed specifically for physical therapists. And we're going to talk about them today. And so the first one is the 98975, sorry, in the first row. This is an initial setup. So you've already selected your software device, right? You have the HEP platform, it's digital, it has RTM, it's FDA approved for RTM usage. It's not a hardware, right? Remember that it's not a hardware, it's a software. So it's in an app or a web browser. And so when you set the patient up and you educate them on how to use it, so you enter their name, email, phone number, you've added them to the system, they have access, you set them up, you show them the first video or homework assignment you're giving them. That then triggers the start of this code. And so it's a one-time only code, and it's billed, it can't actually be billed for 30 days following the start date that they were added to the software system. So 30 days following the start date, and it's a one-time only code. And so this is Medicare reimbursement for Michigan, $17.70. So it changes by region, but it's all pretty close to that. All right, so now row two is the 98977. That is a remote therapeutic monitoring device to monitor musculoskeletal therapy adherence. That's a monthly code every 30 days, actually. So the first one was every 30 days or after 30 days. This one's each 30 days. So it's a monthly code. It can be generated multiple times. Now, that is really just for the patient or the client having the access to the software program, and that software program is transmitting data back and forth. And so the rules state that there has to be 16 days of data collection that has occurred in that 30-day period of time. So the software system that you pick should be tracking data every day. That's a question you want to ask, is like, well, what data do you track, and how are you meeting the rules for 16 days of data collection in a 30-day period of time? So let's assume that's all taken care of. If that happens, then we can bill the second code, and that is a monthly code or every 30 days. So that's at $50.80 reimbursement. Pretty significant, I think, right? Um, the third and the fourth codes here, the third and fourth rows, those are the actual monitoring time. So these are 20-minute timed codes. So you have to get at least 20 minutes to populate the first code. And this is billed at the end of every month if at least 20 minutes has occurred and there's been one two-way audio communication. So two-way audio communication could be phone call, could be a video conference, could be an in-person conversation that was outside of patient care time, but that has to occur in order to meet the qualifications for this 980 code. That's reimbursed at $40.60. Any additional 20 minutes is 981, which has the same rules, a little less reimbursement, but you got to have that phone call once a month and at least another 20 minutes. There's no limit to how many of these you can generate. I think it has to just be kind of your medical necessity or what you think makes the most sense. What I do is I monitor for 60 minutes a month. So I generate one of the 980s and then two of the 981s. That's our average. Now it's different depending on, how long the person's been in the system each month, where they're at in their plan of care. But that's really the basic rules that have to occur in order for us to do this. Now, the benefit of a software system that you've selected, it should calculate all these rules automatically. So it should be monitoring the time and as the remote provider who's doing the monitoring time, it should be adding up the 20 minutes. Like, so we do 15 minutes a week. So it's like, it's adding that up. And then at the end of the month, it tells us how many codes we produced. And it also tracks whether we did a phone call or not. So if we do a phone call, we log it, and then it tells the system that those codes are able to be generated. It shouldn't be something you have to manually track, right? So that's where I would be asking the software company that you're looking at. So again, the requirement, 16 days of data transmission has to occur for that 9877 in a 30-day period of time. Has to be an FDA approved device. My device is. There has to be, the person doing the monitoring has to do it outside of patient care time, and it has to be a physical therapy assistant or a physical therapist who are licensed in the state that the clinic's in. No data, it's not a data. The 16 days of data transmission for that 98977 code, it doesn't mean that it's patient participation. It just has to have software data. So if the person doesn't participate, as long as the software system tells you that, and it's actually a data point, that's considered 1 day of data transmission. And there's 16 days that are required in a 30-day period. Your length of the home exercise program doesn't matter. It could be one video, could be 100 videos. Again, the first two codes are more like technology-based codes, and the last two codes are the monitoring time-based codes. And again, there must be communication with the patient one time in a calendar month outside of patient care time. Also, the remote provider has to also be able to communicate to the supervising therapist. So that could be text, email, phone call, chatting system. They just have to be able to get a hold of the physical therapist in case when they contact the patient, something's wrong. Right, so that communication is really important. The cool thing is all communication that the remote provider has with the patient that's required once a month, and then with the therapist who evaluated the patient, that's all considered monitoring time. So that adds up as part of your 20 minutes. Again, the FDA makes a statement that says your software as a medical device has to be intended to be used for one or more medical purposes, but it's not a hardware device. A mobile app counts. Web browser counts as long as there's data transmission. So those are kind of the quick and dirty kind of codes and rules that are associated with those codes. Hopefully that helps. See you next time.